It's great. There are so many different forms of colored media out there for artists to use. Many are produced in pencil form, attracting the multitudes already conditioned to the feel and comfort of using a pencil. Pencils filled with a colored medium can be found almost everywhere. I've even seen colored pencils sold at a gas station. But just because we have a medium within a pencil, it doesn't mean that it's a colored pencil. For example, we see graphite and charcoal in a pencil, and clearly these mediums are different. Because manufacturers are constantly engineering new products and packaging them in pencil form, the options for the artist just continues to grow. It's pretty exciting for sure, but a new problem arises out of such diversity, and that problem is confusion. The tendency is to categorize all of these new products as colored pencils. After all, a pencil that has a colored medium encased in a pencil is colored, right? Well, I wish it was that simple, but it's not. All of these new products are not technically colored pencils. You see, the medium that you use dictates the manner in which it should be used to reach its full potential. And while it should be noted that you can use any medium that you wish in any manner that you wish, there are limitations and methods which are optimal for performance. In order to get the most from the medium that you use, it's important to know the medium that you're using and how to get the most from its use. In this video, we'll explore a few of the many choices of colored pencils that are available to the artist. I term colored pencils in quotations because, as you'll see, they're not all colored pencils in the traditional sense. Let's first take a look at binder. Most colored pencils feature a binder that holds the pigment together, allowing it to be transferred to a surface. The binder is extremely important as it dictates the methods used to apply the medium. The binder is what ultimately defines the type of colored pencil. Because different types of pencils use different binders, the approach taken by the artist should also be different. Let's first define true colored pencils. Traditional colored pencils vary greatly in quality, but all of them either have an oil or wax-based binder. Wax-based binder colored pencils are far more common. The quality of the pigment used and the ratio of binder to pigment affects the quality of the pencil and the resulting mark. Colored pencils can be easily layered and mixed directly on the drawing surface. And after multiple layers have been applied, colors can become quite complex. Perhaps the most appealing characteristic of traditional colored pencils is the fact that the color can be burnished. Burnishing is the process of building up a heavy application that fills the tooth or texture of the paper, exploiting the oil or waxy binder to produce images that resemble paintings. Burnishing is accomplished through a number of methods, including layering a light pencil like white or cream over applications, applying a solvent like turpenoid or alcohol with a brush, applying a colorless blender, pencil, or marker. To get the most from burnishing, you still need to be aware of the binder of the pencil. For example, oil-based pencils react more effectively to applying solvent, like turpenoid, while wax-based pencils react more effectively to using a colorless blender. Neither wax-based or oil-based colored pencils are water-soluble, as we'll see with the rest of the colored pencils on our list. Watercolor pencils are not traditional colored pencils. And if the artist tries to use watercolor pencils as colored pencils, they're likely to become frustrated. Watercolor pencils do not layer in the same manner as colored pencils, and they cannot be burnished in the same manner either. This is simply because watercolor pencils feature a different binder. This means that watercolor pencils are technically a completely different medium altogether. Watercolor pencils feature a water-soluble binder that disperses pigment when water is added. Color can be added to the surface with the pencil and then brushed with water to activate the medium. This produces a look that's very similar to a watercolor painting. The pencil can also be wetted with a brush or dipped into water before making marks on the surface, producing intense color. Watercolor pencils can be used with colored pencils, but it's advised to use traditional colored pencils over the top of watercolor pencil applications after they've been activated, unless a resist is desired. Let's talk about water-soluble graphite pencils. A third category of pencils called water-soluble graphite. Mostly this medium is produced as traditional graphite in a range of grays. Softer forms produce darker values when activated with water, while harder varieties produce lighter values. Since water-soluble graphite is mostly produced in grays, I'm kind of hesitant to include them in this list. However, there is a product produced by a manufacturer, DERWENT, called Graphite Pencils. These pencils feature a range of color. Because this medium is tinted graphite, most of the colors are quite earthy. Bright colors such as yellow and orange aren't even included. Like watercolor pencils, graphite pencils can be activated by applying water with a brush. But it's important to note that since these pencils are technically graphite, the binder is completely different, making them neither traditional colored pencils or watercolor pencils. Instead, they should be considered their own unique medium. DERWENT also manufactures a product called InkTense Pencils. InkTense pencils behave in a similar manner as watercolor pencils when applied dry, but when activated with water, the color is much more intense than that we see with the traditional watercolor pencils. InkTense pencils are labeled as water-soluble ink pencils, meaning that the binder is different from watercolor pencils. Once activated layers have been dried, they become permanent like ink. This allows for additional layers to be applied over the top, producing a glazing effect that is a bit more difficult to achieve with traditional watercolor pencils. Because of this permanence, InkTense pencils can be used to color fabrics such as silk and cotton, and to cover larger areas, blocks of the medium are also available. InkTense pencils make a suitable base for creating underpaintings, in which traditional colored pencils, pastels, and watercolor pencils can be layered over the top. Although closely related to watercolor pencils, InkTense pencils are yet another unique medium, often categorized as a colored pencil. Now, let's talk for just a second about pastel pencils. Pastel pencils are in a category of their own. These pencils are clearly different from traditional colored pencils. The material encased in the pencil is compressed pastel material. This makes them chalky and soft. They behave in a completely different manner than any of the other pencils we've discussed. They're just another example of a pencil that has color, but isn't a colored pencil. So let's wrap things up. As we can clearly see, there are a variety of different pencils out there that are colored. The tendency is to label them all as colored pencils. But as we can see here, each type of these colored pencils is clearly different from the next. Understanding the binder and how it behaves will make all the difference in your applications and in the pieces of artwork that you create with them.